Evening, everyone. My name is Donna Remington, and I'm the Director of Career Services here at the Providence campus. Welcome to the last day of what's been a very exciting 4-day virtual career conference with over 24 sessions, including an internship fair, that have provided opportunities and inspiration for our Wildcats. Some housekeeping notes before we begin. Students, I will introduce the panelists and I will jump into 2 or 3 short questions. This will allow you an opportunity to get to know them a little bit. By about 5:15, we will open up the discussion rooms and each panelist will go into a room, and this will allow you to choose someone to meet with and get to know them and practice your networking with. You should have about 8 to 10 minutes, which will allow you time to visit 2 or 3 alumni in 2 to 3 different rooms. And don't worry if you're having some technical difficulties and you need some help. We can certainly help to put you into a room as well. And most of all, remember that you're really in a safe and supportive environment. The alum that we have here this evening are very invested in ensuring that you are getting comfortable with networking, that you have an opportunity to work with alums who have been in the very same place as you, and in fact have used networking to advance in their careers. So they're here to support you, and they're here to help you guide you on that. In terms of Zoom, what will happen is when you're in those discussion rooms, you will start to see a countdown when we get to the last 15 minutes, and it will give you 1 minute, 2 minutes left. It will then bring everyone back into the main room, and we will do a wrap up at that point, and we'll ask the alumni to share some feedback with you in general about some of the things that they noticed through the conversations that could be really helpful to others in the group so that we can all help each other learn about networking. Before I introduce the panelists, there's one other really important point that I want to bring up. Regardless of the position they have or the industry that they're working in, I really want you to think about the fact that they're talking about skills and networking as a skill. And the organization that they represent, those organizations need more than just what you might see on the surface. So if you see Flick or Sodexo and you think, oh, that's only culinary or that's only hospitality, actually, that's just the industry that they represent, and they have opportunities available for students of any major. You know, they're a business, and like any business, they need people to represent them throughout the sector. So don't be afraid to talk to them about that either. At this time, I would like to ask the panelists to turn on their cameras so that I can introduce you. Great. Welcome, everyone. First on our list, I would like to welcome back Akanksha Aga, who graduated with her MBA in 2002, and she's the Experience Director at Flick. Her degree has a concentration in Hospitality Financial Management, and she's been with Flick since 2016. Next, we have Varun Avasthi. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Please forgive me. Varun graduated with his master's in 1990, and he is Senior Director of Partnership Strategies and Solutions at Sodexo. He's obtained 3 degrees from Johnson & Wales. He has an associate's in Restaurant Institutional Management, a bachelor's in Hotel Management, and a master's in Institutional Management, in Managerial Technology. He's been with Sodexo since 2003. Next, we have Kailyns Pelletier-Koenig. Kailyns is a staff attorney with Operation Stand Down. She obtained her bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and she has been with Operation Stand Down since October of 2019. Next on our panel, we have Zachary Rains. Zachary is a recruiting coordinator at Citi. He has a degree in sports, entertainment, and event management, and he's been with Citi since July of 2018. And Zach is a perfect example when I say, don't worry about the industry that they're in or the degree that you have, because he has a sports management major and he's working in human resources. So that's a great example for all of you. And finally, we have Caitlin Terrell. And Caitlin is a vice president and group partner with integrated investment at Worldwide. She has an associate's in marketing and a bachelor's in marketing communications. She's been with Worldwide since October 2015. And to avoid any confusion with our other panelists, you'll hear me refer to Kaitlyn as KT. And last but not least, we have Wendy Wallace. Wendy is a college and career strategy consultant at Rhode Island Department of Education. She holds degrees in criminal justice as well as an MBA from Johnson Wales University, and she's been with the Rhode Island DOE since March of 2019. All right, let's get started. So students, we won't spend too much time explaining the definition of networking. You know what networking is, you know that you should do it, but let's be honest, not many people really live and breathe to do networking. It can be a little intimidating. So this evening, you really have such a wonderful opportunity to work with our alumni panelists and practice those skills. And the bonus is you're actually making a connection with alumni who care about your success. So with that, I'll kick it off with our 3 questions. And I will start with Akanksha. Akanksha, how has networking helped advance your career?
Thank you, Donna, and thank you so much for organizing this. So I actually enjoy networking, and I think Donna can actually vouch for that because we shared an office wall for several years. But you know what? I wouldn't look at it as advancing your career necessarily, right? It's ultimately an opportunity to build a relationship. And I think, students, if you look at this as just a conversation to get to know somebody, an opportunity to understand what are their interests, what are their concerns, you know, how has the last year been for them? Just find any common ground and look at it as an opportunity to build a relationship first and foremost. The second part I think that's really helpful is building your brand. And I think that's one of those classic things that you've probably heard career services speak about, and it's true. If your network knows that your name stands for something, whether it's your area of expertise, whether it's you being in the community, whether how, you know, you're there to support each other, whatever it might be, right? If your brand stands for something, then your network will automatically reach out to you when they see something that connects with you, whether it's an opportunity or an interview or anything of that nature. So, you know, don't hesitate, reach out. JWU alumni are always there. Thanks, Donna.
You're welcome. Kaitlyn, can you answer the same question for me, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So networking is actually kind of how I ended up at Operation Standout. I jumped around a little bit when I first got out of law school. So really, I had an interest in working with military members and veterans because that's what Operation Standout does. And a contact of mine that I met while interning at Rhode Island Legal Services, I had spent a lot of time there, and I really made sure to, as Akanksha said, really build those relationships. I didn't want to be just another one of those interns that came in the door and walked out at the end of the summer and they had no idea who I was. I really wanted them to be able to remember me and remember who I was and remember what I was interested in. So every time I had a chance to spend lunch with one of the attorneys there or sit in on a meeting, which isn't always the most fun thing to do, just partake in conversations, I was really able to get my name out there. And most of the staff members there knew who I was by the end. So when it came time for my current organization to have a large event that they do every year called Stand On Weekend, they reached out to Rhode Island Legal Services, one of their partners. And the point person at Legal Services said, hey, what about Kaitlyn? She's really interested in working with military members. She's really interested in working with veterans. Let's see if she wants to come volunteer with us. And that's how I met my current boss about a year before he became my current boss. And that's how I ended up where I was. So I always kind of look at it as much as we go into life with this idea of what our path is going to be, we really have no idea. So every opportunity to meet a person and just have them walk away remembering who we are could really benefit you down the line in a way you never would have imagined. And that's kind of how I ended up where I am.
That's great. Thank you, Kaitlyn. And Zach, how has networking helped you advance your career?
Yeah, certainly. As Kailyns said, it's not 1, 2, 3. It's not a straight line. It's a zigzag. So I started in hospitality, and then I moved to HR, where I currently am. And it's all about who you know. At Citibank, there was a SHRM Connect, a Society for Human Resource Management. I took the SHRM test a couple of years ago, and I passed, thankfully. And then there was a SHRM Connect I stayed in contact with, and he knew about the opportunity at Citibank as a recruiting coordinator. So I jumped at it. So that connection I had with a professional association, standing out. And with SHRM, it's not just, with professional associations, it's not just, frankly, giving them your money and saying, oh, nice, I'm a professional now. I'm a SHRM member. Oh, can you volunteer? Can you volunteer for a committee? What are you doing with SHRM? What are you doing with a CMP, a Certified Meeting Planner Committee? So kind of volunteering in those professional associations and sticking out. What can you do to benefit yourself in a professional association?
That's great. Thank you. And KT, you?
So I actually, when I saw what this topic was about around networking, I'm like, man, I'm terrible at networking was the first thing that came to my head. And then it just feels like such an old word to it, but really what it breaks down to is it's just having a conversation at the end of the day. And so I think, for students, when you're thinking about tackling networking, don't think of it as like this big conversation you have to come prep. It's really about just having a conversation and just flowing and being comfortable, being able to put yourself out there. For me, in many cases, I've let my work kind of speak for itself. So as I think about the ways in which I've kind of navigated my career, it's really been through people who have put me in contact with someone or someone reaching out to bring forth a new opportunity. So never burn any bridges, I think, is really important when you think through networking, and the importance of really letting your work speak for itself. When you put your heart into it, people remember that, and they'll definitely come to you when there's opportunities to bring forth.
That's great. Students, remember that when you enter the discussion rooms, you're just having a conversation. That's great. Varun, you're next.
Sure, thank you. I think, as the other panelists have spoken before, networking really, giving yourself the opportunity and being a little bit vulnerable about it and being open to talking to other people. As students, you're going to have opportunities, during externships or internships and things like that, or wherever you might be working, to supplement your college lifestyle. Make sure that you put your best foot forward. And I think if you're open to having a conversation, and I think that really helps for myself. I worked at the placement office at Johnson & Wales, career placement office, when I was there. And I took the opportunity then to meet with a lot of the HR folks that came to campus to recruit from campus. So, just like a lot of the hospitality and hotel management majors, the whole lineup was I was going to go work in a hotel somewhere, the Hyatt, or, whatever the chain of the day was that time in terms of the prestige. That's what I want to work for, till this company Gardner Merchant shows up, and I'm talking to them about stuff, and next thing I know, they recruit me and I'm representing the US division in England, because I just was open to that idea. I was doing something different. So leave yourself open to that, have the conversation. At the end of the day, you can simplify this very easily if you're getting nervous about this stuff. You've always heard the adage, right? When you're on stage, you have to visualize different things about the audience. Put yourself in that kind of a situation. You walk into a room and there's folks over there, 50% or more is going to have something in common with you. And if you really want to simplify it, everybody eats food. So there's that thing right there. You can connect with everybody over food. It's simple. Icebreaker. Hey, so what do you like about that food? If they're serving appetizers, what do you think of that? So that's an easy way to get a conversation going. You don't have to get into, like Anksha said, you don't have to get into this whole thing about, who am I and what am I going to get out of it? And why am I talking to this person? Just have a conversation. You never know where it's going to lead you. So it's not that scary.
Great. Thank you so much. And Wendy.
So the other panelists have done a wonderful job summarizing ways that we can all advance our careers through networking. And for me, it's really through that relationship building piece, but also having an interest, a real interest in people, and caring for people. So there's a saying that people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And so as you're networking, really take the time to get to know people. And then for myself, just understanding and building these relationships, taking something out of that conversation that I know that will be a thread for the next conversation as a natural follow-up. And so in terms of my career, I started off as a student intern at the U.S. Attorney's Office and then was offered a full-time position as a legal assistant. And again, a lot of that was through networking, getting to know people, going out to lunch, grabbing a coffee, whatever the case is. I know now we're in the middle of a pandemic, but you can be really intentional about how you're connecting with people. It could be a virtual coffee. It could be, sometimes you can go out for a walk and say, hey, do you want to do a Zoom walk, right? Like get creative with that. So again, it was really through building those relationships. I had the opportunity to work at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and then realizing that, Johnson & Wales was a great place for me to realize what I wanted to do next in terms of my academic career, and getting my MBA, because I realized that I really enjoy process improvement. I enjoy project management, some of those hard skills. And then from there, I was able to work for an IT marketing company in Boston, where, again, through networking, getting multiple promotions, and then realizing that at the core of who I am is really giving back and caring for people and giving back to the communities within my circle of influence. And so I started working at a nonprofit, which was, again, that career move was through networking. I grabbed a coffee with the then employment placement officer. And then a year later, here we go, he's sending me a job that he thinks I would be a great fit for. And even now working at RIDE, this was another job that literally someone recommended me for. I didn't go out looking for it, but it was through networking and really connecting with people. And people will know when you have a passion for something, and they can sniff that out, and they know when you're gifted and when you are skilled to do the work, and they know what you're capable of. So just, again, being genuine, being yourself. You don't feel like you have to put on a front or a persona, but just be yourself, and people will gravitate towards you. And if you take a real interest in who people are, then you'll see the return on your investment.
That's true. That's great advice, to be authentic, because at the end of the day, that networking may lead to a position that if you're not your true authentic self, that organization may not be a good fit for you for very long, right? So being authentic is so important. Wendy, I'm going to stay with you for the next question and then work in reverse. What advice do you have for students that are unsure about where to start? So you've given some examples about what you've done, but think back to when you were a student, and what are some of the things that you think a student could take as a first step if they're really unsure about this? And you all have done a great job with selling them on this, but if they're not quite sure, where do they start?
Start with your peers. Your peers have a plethora of information, and they have their own networks. So start with the people around you, just building those relationships. And, for myself, I'm very much a natural project manager. I have literally milestones and benchmarks for when I'm reaching out to people, not like in a spreadsheet, but just internally, like, oh, I haven't reached out to so-and-so in about a week and a half. Let me see how they're doing, or let me check in on so-and-so in a month from now. But just starting with the people around you, and that's how you really build up your support system, but also making sure that you yourself are a resource and that you have something to offer when it comes to building those relationships, and it's not just one-sided. So for example, if within your classmates, if there's a study group, or if you see that there's a gap or some way that you can contribute, just start there, and then you'll be able to see, you can branch out into more official ways of networking, whether it's through an organization or through a leadership position. Just starting small will definitely help you build that confidence in order to do something that's a little bit larger.
Great. And Varun, what about you?
I think for this group of students, the fact that you're actually here on this call, you've already begun the process. So this should not be difficult for you. But if there are friends of yours who you know who have not taken the opportunity over the past 4 days to do this, I think, to Wendy's point, start with your peers. You have friends in your classes, just talk to them. You are going to a local restaurant, having a meal, you're talking to the owner, you're doing things like that. If you're in a different environment, if you're working somewhere, talk to the folks that work there. It's really the people that are around you in your immediate circle is where you start. And then from there, you just build on that. And that's the easiest way to do it. It's also the safest way because you know these people already. So there's no, trepidation in terms of, oh my God, I got to speak to this person. Well, you've been working with them, right? Or you're doing a class with them, or you live down the hallway from them because you're living in a dorm. So any of those opportunities, use those to have that conversation, and that's how you get comfortable with it, and then just go from there. And then literally it's open season. You can just talk to anybody and have the conversation, because then you're going to get involved with those kind of conversations. It'll be very comfortable for you to do that. So that's the best way to do it.
Great. I'm going to shift gears to one final question so we can get the students into the rooms. So I'll go back to Akanksha to start with this. How has COVID or virtual meetings affected networking for you?
Boy, I think that, what is the word of the year? Pivoting, right? We've all done a ton of that. Lori and I were joking earlier today. One thing that is easier is that you don't have to balance your beverage while you're shaking hands and sort of do that whole networking dance, right? So there is a little bit of that. Technology is awesome. I mean, I love that while we're sitting here and having this conversation, my LinkedIn pinged a couple of times, and I believe Josh and one more student from this group has already reached out to me and connected with me on LinkedIn. So kudos to you for that, right? We're kind of in each other's homes all the time. So use that as an icebreaker if you need to, and comment upon the fact that, I see your background has such and such, and use that opportunity to break the ice. But I think ultimately, whether it is in person or it's virtual, it really boils down to getting to know the individual and what you said earlier about being authentic. If you are authentic, I will add one more thing that might sound a bit contradictory. Do be prepared, right? Be authentic, but do take the time to prepare, because you don't want to leave that conversation thinking, I really wanted to ask them this. So do have some of those questions prepared ahead of time. And then ultimately just be yourself, because we're here to get to know you. So don't be shy.
Great, thank you. And Caitlin and Katie and Zach, any other advice that you can think of related to COVID that would be different? And then we will go right into the rooms.
I would have to say lean on technology. So, as you think about social networks and where you can tap into there's also been a huge uptick in Clubhouse. So I don't know if anybody has downloaded the app or been on there, but there's so many different conversations happening and opportunities to connect with people that you normally wouldn't have been able to connect with. Like last night, I joined a Clubhouse where I listened to Snoop Dogg talk about dropping his next NFT. And I felt like I was there with him. And it was just such a cool experience listening to that and learning and almost networking. So you can raise your hand to go up and talk on the stage or get involved in questions. You can find people's names and then start to find them afterwards. And so that's something that you can start to experiment around a little bit with right now as you think about COVID and living. And then I would also keep an eye on Twitter Spaces, which is going to be launching at the end of this month, as I think that's going to have a lot more reach. And most of us are already on Twitter too. So it'll be interesting to see how that takes off. But I agree, lean on LinkedIn and the different social apps that are available to really help you navigate this space.
I would just add that don't be upset with yourself, or don't come down hard on yourself if this whole Zoom and virtual networking isn't necessarily for you. So adapt and keep doing it, because you can't just stop networking for a year. But understand that if you're better in person, or if you're more comfortable really going up to someone and saying, hi, I'm Kaylyn, this is what I do. Don't be ashamed of that. This year has been horrible for me networking. I am so much better with a glass of wine in my hand, going up to people. When a conversation doesn't fit me, I can filter over to the next one. You can't really do that necessarily as much on these virtual things. So don't be ashamed if you're not adapting as well. Because I think so many people, and this is not the first time I've talked about networking virtually, so many people say, yeah, this is the best thing ever, because you can like do it in your pajamas and you can do it from your phone. And there are a group of us that are like, no, I hate this. So know that that's okay because nobody has told me that yet. And I know that's not just me that's struggling with the virtual networking.
That's great. And Zach, how about you?
Yeah, certainly. It's made it easier, quite frankly. I've been able to connect with many more people. I set up, what I do is I kind of, when I networked for human resources, I'm trying to, get more established in the space. I look people up on LinkedIn. I message them, hey, do you have 5 minutes via Zoom? And majority of time they respond yes. So it's nice to be able to get 5 minutes of someone's time. And then during that call, you say, okay, can I have 5 minutes more of your time in a couple of weeks? So kind of build that relationship over time via Zoom. And then when you're back in person, say, all right, can we meet? Do we have that time now?
That's awesome, right? So students, I'm sure some of you are relating to Kaylyn, some are relating to Zach, some are relating to KT, et cetera. And that's okay. We all have different ways to want to approach networking. So these are great tips for you. So at this point, Lauren is going to set up the discussion rooms and put our alumni panelists into a room, and then students will be able to join a room as soon as those are set up. And in the meantime, panelists, you can feel free, if you like, to add your LinkedIn if students would like to join you there.
Thank you, Donna, and thank you to our alumni for your time and professional knowledge. And thank you to our students for coming to build your JWU network. We hope you enjoyed your conversations and learned some takeaways from our alumni. We are thrilled to bring alumni and students together for programs such as this one. And students, if you're interested in being more involved, I urge you to attend our Student Alumni Association meeting in April. While it will be the last of the semester, we have so much more in store for the fall. For more information, find our page on the Involvement Network under Alumni Relations. Thank you all for attending, and we hope you have a great evening.